welcome to my channel, A Year and a Day. My name is Jenny and I try to do things a little differently in February. As you might recall, I was very frustrated with myself in January, trying to find balance between my day job and creative goals, and failing miserably. So in February, I decided to be kind to myself and allow myself some room to breathe. It meant I was a lot less frustrated, but it also meant I didn't create as much as I would have liked. Somehow it always seems to be one way or another and never both, but I will keep trying. With that being said, let's take a quick look at the things I loved in February. You know, since it's already almost April. Let's shuffle things around a bit and start with the decks I used in February and the cards I pulled for the month. In February I used the Viator Somniorum deck and the Zodiac Tarot. The Viator Somniorum is very new in my collection, so I was eager to try it out. Although it is inspired by lucid dreaming, it can easily be used as a normal oracle deck. And I love the color scheme and illustration style of this one. It's honestly very unique in my collection. The Zodiac Tarot has been with me for a couple of months and it was an instant favorite. It also felt like a perfect deck to use in these final stretches of winter. In January I was haunted by the Queen of Swords, while having a great yearning for solitude and independence. But for February, the cards reminded me not to seclude myself too much and focus on love and connection to those closest to me. So I try to be extra mindful of that in February. My husband and I went to see Wardruna, a band we listened to a lot while driving through Norway last year. And it was an amazing way to relive our travels. I also enjoyed some quick, spontaneous watercoloring to create birthday cards. I didn't record any of the process or anything, but it was a lot of fun just doing these little quick paintings without overthinking it. And as I was trying to recharge and not push myself too much, I also allowed myself some time in February to do something I have loved ever since I was a child: gaming. From the moment I first held a Game Boy when I was about 8 years old, I have loved video games. Nowadays I do not often allow myself to spend lots of time on them. But in February I took out my Switch and thanks to a huge sale at Nintendo, I restocked my game library. Now I have a whole list of beautiful indie games to play every now and then. And in February I started with Hoa, a lovely mellow game with strong Studio Ghibli vibes. I also really loved going on YouTube and seeing all these young girls making the most of what they now call cozy gaming. I remember being the nerd or weird one as a teenager. because I loved fantasy and science fiction and video games. And I'm so very happy to see times are changing. Now let's move on to dolls before I start to sound like too much of a granny. Do you remember the blonde Blythe I showed back in November? I called her Meadow, and I decided to give her a little bit of a makeover in February. I just love how you can change the whole look of a doll by changing up some details. And I absolutely love this little one with her new hair. Something I have wanted to do since getting into Blythes last year is make my own characters. And in February, I worked on my very first one, Kiki, from Kiki's Delivery Service. I created her a little blue dress and a broom, and of course a big red bow. I will continue to work on some more accessories, but already I am so very happy with the result. Let's move on to decks. The first one is not an oracle or tarot, but a fun deck of postcards. These Effin Birds postcards by Aaron Reynolds were on my wish list for a while, and it was exactly what I needed at the start of February. I'm pretty sure these cards were created with a day job at an office in mind. Next up is a Kickstarter I backed last year, the Soul Tarot by Kokorina. This deck is entirely dedicated to our sun. I do not usually work with more abstract artwork, but I really like the whole vibe of this one, and the fact that June was one of the inspirations. And since I was rereading June last year, when this was on Kickstarter, I couldn't help but back it. The deck and guidebook both look lovely, but I am not sure if I will keep this deck in the long term. It might just be a bit too abstract for my taste, and the artwork feels a bit cold and distant, which is ironic since it revolves around the sun and has a very warm color scheme. Funnily enough, the other Kickstarter deck I received in February is also a bit abstract. It's the Blue Earth Tarot by Alison Davies. The artwork was created using a photographic technique called cyanotype, and the color scheme is the opposite of the Soul Tarot. Blue Earth has nothing but cool blue tones. But ironically, this deck does hold a lot of emotion and warmth for me, in contrary to the Soul Tarot. Maybe it's because I followed along Alison's journey on her YouTube channel, or maybe it just feels like a much more personal art project. But in any case, I am connecting much more to the Blue Earth Tarot than I am to Soul. And I absolutely love having it in my collection. That's it. Those were my favorite things from the month of February. I kept it a bit shorter than I'd like, but that was the only way to finish this video before the end of March. So I will continue to be kind to myself and forgive myself for that. And I hope you enjoyed my random ramblings either way. Whether you are new here or returning, thank you so much for following along, for liking and subscribing, and for sharing your thoughts in the comments. I really appreciate it. And I hope to see you next time. Bye!